make my way back home. Take me to the place I know. So they always say, hey, don't let go. But will I be alright? Will I be alright? My feet are at the edge of the bridge, I think I'm lost again. Gravity always wins, I can't keep up the fight within. Sinking like a stone, digging up all the bones of a past that just won't let me go. I'm sorry if I hurt you, the pain was meant for me. And the scars of tomorrow getting easier to see. I have to fix what I made, I have to walk down the path. And I'm sorry if I don't come back. Am I the water in the river? Or am I sinking like a stone? Hope my soul can be delivered, 'cause I died to make it home. Trying to make my way back home. Take me to the place I know. So they always say, hey, don't let go. But will I be alright? Will I be alright? Trying to make my way back home. Take me to the place I know. So they always say, hey, don't let go. But will I be alright? Will I be alright?
Snow falls in the mountains north of Equestria. A cold breeze sends a shiver down Nighthunter's spine. His trench coat does little to keep the cold out, much less save his precious body heat. His fur helps, but not as much as he would have liked. The compacted ice and snow sends small stabs of pain through his paws, making it hard to stand still. Nighthunter looks out on the frozen landscape with a piercing gaze. Despite the throbbing cold, Nighthunter keeps an eye on the fleeing refugees. Dark Lords Tirek and Grogar, Queen Chrysalis's army of changeling drones, and King Sombra's army of undead crystal Imperial guards have taken over Equestria. Thousands of Equestrian soldiers and civilians were slaughtered during the invasion. With the help of their dragon, hippogriff, and reformed changeling comrades, the ponies sought to build a united army, but were unsuccessful. Currently, millions flee the once powerful nation, making their way through the frozen northern tundra to get to Yakistan. Mothers try to comfort their frightened foals. Fathers, some soldiers, are allowed to lead their families through the tundra. The sight is pitiful.
Nighthunter.
A Lunar Guard's pony says as she lands next to Nighthunter. As he looks down, the guard takes in his unique physique. He doesn't look like any ordinary mercenary, or a pony at that. He's a hellhound. His eyes a piercing yellow, his gaze as cold as the blizzard that surrounded them. Nighthunter is much taller than anyone else around, and is even taller than the princesses. His muscular build also adds to his massive size.
King Sombra's army is in full retreat, sir. I guess the dragon's plan to buy us some time worked.
How many dragons were lost?
150, sir.
Nighthunter roughly exhales through his nose, sending vapors swirling through the frigid air.
Thank you, Corporal Shining Star. Now take my post while I report to the princesses.
Yes, sir.
Nighthunter walks up the trail. Along the way, he'll answer a few questions, most of which come from concerned mothers and children. The same how much farther question begins to annoy Nighthunter. However, his annoyance dissipates when he lays eyes on a pregnant mare. The mare carries 2 large saddlebags on her back. Her legs are shaking from exhaustion. Then she collapses into the snow. He runs over to the mare, forgetting the cold. He picks her up and tries to keep her warm.
I can't go on any further. I just can't.
Don't worry, you'll make it. I promise.
Nighthunter looks around to see where he can lay the mare. He spots a stallion pulling a wagon. He calls out to the stallion, and the stallion stops and turns his head. Nighthunter runs towards him. The wagon is covered in a blanket and tied down by ropes. Nighthunter draws one of his daggers and begins cutting the cords.
What in Celestia's name are you doing?
Nighthunter doesn't respond. He finishes cutting the ropes and begins tossing pots, pans, plates, and whatnot into the snow. People around him dodge the flying kitchen utensils.
Have you lost your bloody mind, you brute? Those have been in my family for 4 generations! 4 generations!
In a swift motion, Nighthunter draws his sword and points it at the stallion's face. The stallion begins to sweat as he stares at the long, black blade. Nighthunter's eyes blaze with fury.
Shut the fuck up. I need your card and help this mare get some rest. You will pull her and 2 guards the rest of the way. Stick that in your blunt and smoke it.
Nighthunter sets down his sword to place the mare on the wagon, and puts the blanket that previously covered the kitchen utensils over her. Nighthunter calls over 2 Thestral Lunar Guards. The guards salute him as they approach.
Stay with this mare until we reach Yakistan, and make sure she stays warm so she doesn't freeze to death. Understood?
Yes, sir.
The guards enter the wagon, and the stallion begins to walk forward. Nighthunter stands up and continues up the trail. Eventually, the 4 Alicorn princesses come into view. They stand on an enormous boulder that overlooks where the refugees are walking. Nighthunter walks up to the princesses, kneels before them, and bows his head.
Your Highnesses, I have news from the battlefield.
Enlighten us.
King Sombra's army is in full retreat, Princess Celestia. Lady Ember's plan worked.
Very good, Nighthunter. How many dragons were lost?
150, Your Highness.
Their sacrifices will be remembered and is not in vain.
We wouldn't have had to lose any dragons if we retreated earlier. Their deaths are on my head. It's my fault I didn't—
Nighthunter, there was a way you could have had anticipated King Sombra's movement. He has a reputation for being unpredictable and a highly artful military strategist.
I still feel responsible, Princess Luna.
Princess Celestia rests her hoof on the mercenary's shoulder. Nighthunter looks up at her with a defeated look in his eyes.
Don't worry, Nighthunter. I'm sure Lady Ember will not hold her deaths against you. She has grown fond of you.
Only because I kicked her ass in a sword fight.
Possibly. But I believe it's because you have earned her respect.
Nighthunter stands up and walks over to Princess Cadance. She has a shawl wrapped around her body along with a thick coat. She smiles at the mercenary that stands in front of her.
How's Flurry Heart?
See for yourself.
Princess Cadance uses magic to reveal the baby alicorn in a homemade sling hanging around her neck. Flurry Heart coos as she looks at Nighthunter. After a few seconds, Nighthunter takes a step back. Cadance covers her daughter back up. Then, Nighthunter straightens up like a soldier, and his down-to-earth demeanor also changes.
Now, if you will excuse me, Your Highnesses, I need to meet with King Thorax to inform him of Lady Ember's successful battle. He will want to know about it.
Godspeed, Nighthunter. Godspeed.
Nighthunter bows and turns to find King Thorax. As he trudges through the snow, he ponders a question plaguing his mind. He looks up at the falling snow and asks himself that fateful question.
How the hell did I get here?
Equestrian history isn't typically a subject that bores Princess Flurry Heart. It's one of her favorite subjects. It's when her history teacher, Crystal Quill, over-dramatizes the trail of frozen tears that bores her. Usually, Crystal Quill would bring some pony to class to talk about their experience and answer questions the students had. She has yet to do that with this event. To quell her eternal boredom, Flurry Heart reads ahead in her history book. She reads about pivotal battles of the Great Equestrian War, and about influential ponies or allies that participated. The ponies most talked about were her royal aunts, the elements of harmony, famous soldiers, etc. Towards the end of the chapter, there's a section with pictures and small paragraphs that briefly describe the person. They are no-name, non-commissioned officers or noble ponies with little diplomatic influence. However, the last section catches Flurry Heart's attention. It is about a mercenary that went by the name of Nighthunter. This is what the paragraph says. Nighthunter, also known as the Demon Wolf of the Badlands, was a mercenary hastily hired by Princess Twilight Sparkle. He was hired to train new volunteers for the Crystal Imperial Guard in the Equestrian Armed Forces. He only partook in smaller-scaled battles and had high casualty rates. Nighthunter was best known for disrespecting royals, commissioned officers, and having an explosive temper. Many referred to him as a bloodthirsty brute on and off the battlefield. The picture with the small paragraph is of Nighthunter pointing at something with an angry snarl on his face. His other hand is a large sword. This picture visualizes Nighthunter as a ruthless brute, as the book describes. However, that is not how Flurry Heart remembers him. With her alicorn memory, she can vividly remember things. Flurry Heart remembers Nighthunter as a calm and calculated mercenary. He had only shown anger when some pony undermined his authority, or when the number of casualties was too high. Flurry Heart decides to raise her hoof to point out this discrepancy.
Yes, Princess Flurry Heart?
I know you told me not to do this, but I read ahead in the book. I found something wrong with some of the information.
Crystal Quill furrows her eyebrows in confusion.
There is a small paragraph about the mercenary named Nighthunter. Most of the information is incorrect. For example, the book says he only fought in small battles, which isn't true.
What makes you think that isn't true?
I remember my father talking to Nighthunter about fighting battles outside the Crystal Empire. He led the charge in the final battle. The other part about Nighthunter being disrespectful towards the royals isn't genuine either. I remember he bowed before my mom and my great-aunts.
Are you insinuating my husband's book is inaccurate?
At this point, everyone in the classroom is looking directly at Flurry Heart. The base of her horn is itching, which happens when she's nervous. Flurry Heart needs to look strong like her father, Prince Shining Armor, and bold like her mother, Princess Cadance. If she chokes now, how will her peers respect her when she ascends to the throne? Flurry Heart takes a deep breath and exhales.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. This entire book is extremely biased. Any pony that is of royal or noble blood has whole chapters written about them. But Celestia forbid your husband write anything about any pony that isn't a pony or isn't of royal or noble blood. A small town farm cult could win the Medal of Honor and Valor, or marry a princess, but this book would barely mention them.
The students start clapping their hooves and cheering loudly. Crystal Quill narrows her eyes at Flurry Heart. Her face grows red from anger. Flurry Heart, however, smirks.
Enough!
Tell him.
The entire room goes quiet.
This kind of behavior is unacceptable, especially from you, Princess. I expected better from you. Your parents will receive a notice about your behavior.
Flurry Heart sinks in her seat as her face grows hot. She's embarrassed that her teacher shot her down. Flurry Heart, on the other hoof, understands that she can't let one of Equestria's heroes' names be dragged through the mud. He deserves the credit of being hailed as a hero, not a brute. With the stubbornness of a mule, Flurry Heart swears that she will see to it that Nighthunter receives his due credit for the sacrifices he made for Equestria. Flurry Heart walks home with her friends, Iron Quartz, Sunny Sapphire, and Emerald Lance. Her friends are talking about their day while Flurry Heart walks in silence. Sunny automatically notices this. She also sees that her friend hasn't said a word since they left school. This is uncharacteristic of her, especially on a Friday afternoon.
Hey, Flurry. Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Are you sure? You aren't usually like this.
Well, she did get yelled at history class today.
Sunny Sapphire looks at Flurry Heart with a shocked expression on her face. Then she looks at Emerald Lance.
What for?
She called Crystal Quill's husband's history book out for having biased information.
I saw an injustice, so I decided to point it out.
What injustice are you talking about?
It was in a paragraph about a mercenary named Nighthunter that fought in the Great Equestrian War. There were discrepancies and a lack of important information. I remember him like it was yesterday. I hated that a non-pony was just pushed out of the picture. It was like they wanted him to be forgotten.
Of course, he didn't get to bask in the proverbial spotlight. Crystal Quill and her husband are very, xenophobic.
I wish I could help him, but I don't know how to.
Write something about him. Gather information, write an article.
You do have good writing skills, Flurry Heart. You could write a biography!
Flurry Heart pauses to contemplate the idea.
That isn't a bad idea. I could set the truth straight in a book that every pony could read, and they'll see that Nighthunter wasn't a bad guy. Thanks, Sonny!
You're welcome, Flurry Heart.
Flurry Heart spreads her wings and flies off towards the castle with a giant grin on her face.
And that's the last we'll see of her for a week.
Especially from this angle.
The two stallions hoof bump while Sunny groans at the comment. Flurry Heart is sitting in the Crystal Imperial dining hall with her parents. They are silent for the most part, munching away at their evening meal. It makes the teenage princess nervous that her parents haven't brought up her outburst at school. She swallows her daffodil salad before she decides to speak to her parents.
Hey, Dad, do you remember Nighthunter by any chance?
Shining Armor sets down his fork and looks at his daughter.
Of course I do. He was my brother in arms back during the war. A hell of a fighter and a leader.
How essential was he to the war effort in the Great Equestrian War?
He was very essential. His prowess on and off the battlefield was extremely helpful.
So, why do the history books talk bad about him?
This doesn't have anything to do with what happened in class today, does it?
Oh, you heard about that.
Yes, we did. Well, your father did. Then he told me.
Crystal Quill came into my office demanding to speak with me, and I found out what you did. I told her that we would talk about it, and we did. In all honesty, I think that you were in the right for calling out the false information in those books.
The family goes back to eating, but Flurry Heart still has Nighthunter on her mind. She finishes eating her sandwich before she continues the previous subject.
Where is Nighthunter from?
That I can't answer. I know he was from a different dimension, but beyond that...
Come to think of it, he never specified where he was from. Aside from his character traits and skills, we don't know much about Nighthunter.
So, do you know some pony who could tell me more about him?
Your Aunt Twilight is a start. She was the first to meet him and knows the most about him.
Okay. I'll send Aunt Twilight a letter tomorrow.
Tell you what. You and I will take a trip to Ponyville to talk to Twilight.
Really?
Sure. I'll take any excuse to see Twilight. It's been over a year since I've seen her.
And maybe I'll get some answers.
Flurry Heart returns later that night and packs a saddlebag stuffed with quills, inkwells, and loads of paper. There were, of course, plenty of snacks. Flurry Heart goes to bed to get a good night's sleep. The following day, Flurry Heart is ecstatic. She rushes through her breakfast, but her mother tries, unsuccessfully, to calm her down. Princess Cadance and Flurry Heart board the royal train to Ponyville that afternoon. Due to the lack of formality of the journey, they don't have an entourage of Imperial guards. The train arrives in Ponyville half a day later. They head to the library when they arrive at the Castle of Friendship. Given the nature of Twilight, the library is the first place they go. Just as the Crystal Princesses had guessed, Twilight isn't in the library. She is oblivious to their approach and only notices them when Princess Cadance clears her throat.
Cadance! Flurry Heart!
Hey, Twilight!
What's up, Aunt Twilight? What are you doing here?
Princess Cadance motions for Flurry Heart to speak up. Flurry Heart clears her throat.
I need some information on Nighthunter. You want information on Draven Davenport?
Flurry Heart immediately sits down on the ground and begins to write. The first thing she writes down is Draven Davenport, with a question mark next to it.
Well, Draven Davenport is Nighthunter's real name. He's not just a hellhound. He is a human. A human? What's that? A human is a bipedal creature that lives in a different dimension. He turned into a hellhound when he came to Equestria. Well, after he was dropped in the Badlands. Why was he dropped in the Badlands? Well, let's just say that it was a result of a failed experiment. That also caused certain events to spin out of control. Like what? For starters, he was thought to be dead for 2.5 years by his family, girlfriend and friends. What town was he from? What happened while he was here? Why do history books talk bad about him? Why?
Whoa, Flurry. One question at a time.
Sorry, Aunt Twilight. I just got excited. Don't worry, Flurry Heart. I was the same way when I was your age. So, why are you so interested in Draven?
Flurry Heart explains what happened the day before and what she set out to do. Twilight is intrigued by her niece's mission. Twilight decides to help Flurry Heart in a way that will change her life.
You know, Flurry, you can just ask Draven these questions. Really? Sure.
Hold on, Twilight. Are you sure it's a good idea to send Flurry to that dimension?
Yeah. I've perfected the spell to where she'll be within 100 meters of him.
I still don't think it's a good idea.
Do you want to send me to Nighthunter's dimension? That would be so cool!
Honey, his dimension is very different than ours. It could be dangerous.
Not if we use the spell properly.
I still don't know if that...
Come on, Mom! This could help me set the record straight and clear Nighthunter's name!
Princess Cadance thinks about her daughter's request. Sending her to a relatively unknown dimension is frightening. Nighthunter's dimension, according to the mercenary himself, is not as safe as Equestria. That being said, if the spell is as accurate as Twilight says, Flurry Heart would not be in significant danger, as she would be if she were 10 miles away.
How confident are you that this spell will work?
I'm 95% confident. Good enough for me.
Fine, but when you are finished, you come back here and ensure that Draven escorts you.
Yes, ma'am. I'll leave the portal open, since I'm the only one who knows how to open and close it. The portal is invisible to everyone, so you'll need to memorize where it is. You got it.
Twilight ignites her horn. She pulls out a red crystal from a box that sits on top of one of her many bookshelves. Then, she shoots a beam of magic at the crystal. The crystal begins to float, flashes red, and a triangle-like portal frame appears. Twilight grits her teeth and grunts when she fires a jagged beam of magic at the crystal. With a loud bang and a flash of red light, the portal opens. The center is black like the night. The frame is as red as blood. Twilight rubs her head as if she has a headache, but grins.
There. All done. Thanks.
Flurry Heart steps towards the portal, but Twilight stops her.
I must warn you, Draven might not be happy to see you, or find out I sent you there. He has had bad experiences here and suffered a lot of trauma. So, don't be surprised if he turns you away. That being said, he might be happy to see you. He was very fond of you. Also, don't tell anyone that you were a pony princess. Trust me, it won't go well.
Flurry Heart nods her head. She ensures she has all of her stuff before stepping through the portal. When she steps through, it's not like what she thought it would be like to walk through a portal. The feeling is like she walked through a doorway. She looks back at the exit, but she doesn't see anything. Flurry reaches for it and touches it. The air ripples like a pebble hitting a smooth lake. When she retracts her arm, she notices that she doesn't have any hooves. Instead, she has skinny arms and 5 wrigglers at the end of each one. Then, she looks down at herself. She only has 2 legs, her muzzle is gone, and her teeth are different as well. What surprises her the most is that she's wearing clothes. She's wearing blue jeans and a bright pink shirt. On her back, the saddlebags are replaced with a bag that has straps. When Flurry Heart tries to stand up, she falls flat on her butt. It takes her several tries before she can stand up properly. Flurry begins to take in her surroundings. She notices that she's in a neighborhood. Each house looks similar in construction and appearance. Few trees are on the lawns as well. A strange flying thing flies overhead at speeds that only Rainbow Dash could match. Flurry Heart decides it's time to look for Nighthunter. Then she sees a bipedal creature jogging towards her. From the looks of it, it's a male. He has tiny white things sticking out of his ears. In his hand is a thin, rectangular box. Flurry Heart leans against a tree and waves at the creature. The creature jogs over to her and pulls one of the white things out of his ear.
Can I help you, ma'am?
Flurry Heart tries to compose herself and look normal.
Yes. Can you tell me where a Draven Davenport lives? I'm a friend of his child.
Oh, Draven lives about 100 feet that way.
The man points at a much nicer-looking house down the street.
I guess Aunt Twilight's spell was accurate. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Flurry Heart shakily walks over to the house that man pointed to. When she arrives, she dusts herself off before knocking on the door. At first, no one answers. She knocks again. This time, she hears someone walking up to the door. Then the door opens. Standing in front of her is a man. The man's hair was long, dirty blonde, reaching the collar of his shirt. On his face, there's a smidgen of stubble. A faint scar runs across his left cheek. His white skin darkened by presumably many hours in the sunlight. The man towers over Flurry Heart in stature. This man had to be Nighthunter.
Excuse me, sir. Are you Draven Davenport?
Yeah, that's me. Who are you?
My name is Princess Flurry Heart, Princess of the Crystal Empire and heir to the throne.
Draven freezes. There's no way in hell this teenager is the baby alicorn that he last saw 15 years ago. He looks behind her to see if this isn't some elaborate prank. He listens to hear if anyone is laughing or snickering quietly. Nothing. This is Flurry Heart.
What in the white blue fuck are you doing here? Hello everyone, I'm Anonymous. I just wanted to thank you all for listening to the first chapter of The Legend of the Nighthunter. It's been a hectic, rough, and stressful few months putting this chapter together, but it's been worth it. Please tell us your thoughts in the comment section and consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. The link to the Golden Oak Studios official Twitter is in the description below. If you'd like to donate your voice to our project, we'd love to hear your audition. We are currently short on voice talents right now, so any help is accepted and appreciated. The link to the casting call is also in the description. Again, thank you so much for listening to the first chapter of The Legend of the Nighthunter. Anonymous out.